Welcome back to my cheap Rolls Royce project, right there. So far, in the previous episodes, I got it running, I got it driving, I did some basic tune-up. The engine is still not running well, and I suspect that I'll need to dig into carburetor tuning. But before I do that, I want to do some final basic maintenance, starting with ignition timing, and then do an oil change and coolant flush, because those are things that need to be done before I experiment with the engine any further and run it any further. The oil in this car has been there for who knows how long, probably 8 years or something like that, I don't know. And I really want to change that before running the engine for any longer periods of time while I'm doing tuning or while I'm test driving and stuff like that. So it's time for that. I'm also gonna get new tires because the tires on this car are ridiculous. They are just cracked all over the place, hella old. And yeah, we'll go from there. I'm trying to keep the budget low. At the end of this episode, I will do a tally on how much I've spent so far. It's reasonable, I'd say. It's not cheap, but it's also not expensive. So yeah, let's get going with the ignition timing first, and then oil change and coolant flush. So here's how you do timing on a Silver Shadow. Ignition timing. First, you untighten the collar nut thing that holds the distributor. This one. There's a bolt on the other side that you need to untighten so that it can rotate. Attach the timing tool. This car doesn't have a tachometer, so you need a timing tool with a tachometer in it. And then you set the idle to 800 RPM by adjusting this screw here. And then you point the timing light at the flywheel here. There's a timing mark down there. Black arrow right there. And that needs to align with the line on the flywheel itself. That when the flash comes on, that needs to align with the arrow. And if it doesn't, then you rotate the distributor by hand to adjust it such that the mark aligns. So we've got something close to 800 RPM. Then I figured with my tool I need to slide it over here and flash from here. And now we can watch the timing mark. There's a line on the flywheel that's currently aligned at the flywheel, at the arrow on the flywheel. Can't really see it on this camera, but that's how it's done. And one more time, disappointment. Even with the timing, the ignition timing set correctly, the car still sputters at low RPM when you give it partial throttle, and the behavior didn't really change. The timing was a little bit off, but not by much, so I adjusted it precisely, but it didn't make much of a difference. So it's gotta be fuel tuning, guys. It's gotta be carburetor tuning, and that's the dreaded thing. I wanted to avoid that if possible because I don't know how to do it, but looks like I'll have to learn. Today's job is to change the oil and flush the coolant in the car, because the oil is old from I don't know how long ago, and I've been testing things with the engine, running it for a while, and I just don't want to keep running it with the old oil. So I'm just going to change it now. I want to warm it up a little bit first because it's easier for the oil to drip down when it's warm. I'm not going to get it too warm in order not to burn myself while I'm working on it. And I'm also going to flush the coolant with new green stuff, green coolant, that's what I got. And then the oil that I'm going to use is this classic oil thing, 20W50. I did some research on oil. I'm not an expert, obviously, but apparently you have three choices really for cars like this: either modern synthetic oil, or modern mineral oil, or so-called classic mineral oil. I picked the classic one because supposedly it has additives that help with these cars with the old engines.
and it's not much more expensive than regular mineral oil. I don't know if it really helps at all or if it's just marketing speak, but might as well. So yeah, let's get on to it.
So first things first, let's see if we can drain the old oil without lifting the car. This car is pretty tall, and it's best to drain the oil when the car is in level position. That's why they do it on lifts in professional shops. And I don't feel like lifting both the front and the back, so let's see if I can just drain it without lifting the car. It's pretty tight. Okay, I'll try it with my jack handle as an extension. Up. Okay, yep, started moving. Everything is very dirty and oily. Definitely don't use your Sunday clothes here. Most likely a bunch of washers are gonna fall into the drain pan, but that's fine, I'll find them later. Okay. Ugh, nasty black oil. And now that the oil is fully drained, we're ready to put in the new to put back the drain plug, which I've cleaned up, and put a new crush washer here. Make sure the old crush washer is not stuck on the oil pan. If it is, discard it and put the new one, and then we can lift the car and replace the filter. Okay, car is jacked up, supported by jack stands, obviously, right there. Not by this jack, this is just for safety. The oil filter is right here in this canister, and as you remove it, you have to have an oil pan underneath because a bunch of oil is still in the filter housing and in the filter itself. So undo this with a pan underneath, and as you're doing it, make sure you catch anything that comes out of this assembly. The filter inside is spring loaded, so as you remove the bolt, just support it with your other hand to make sure that it doesn't fly out, and make sure that all the parts don't fall into your drain pan, because you'll need to reassemble some of them later. Okay, it wasn't very tight at all. Okay, I'll need two hands, so I'm not gonna film how I remove it, or maybe I'll try with one hand. Let's try with one hand. Man, I know I'm gonna regret this. But for your sake, guys who are watching this video, doing it one-handed, the whole thing is probably gonna explode. There's gonna be oil all over the place. You know what? I'll just let it drain like that a little bit. I think at this point most of it is out, so moving on. Yep, okay. There we go, easy. This is what the filter assembly looks like. Actually, let me remove the bolt. Well, first it looks like nothing's gonna fall out, so I'm gonna pour out all the oil. In the meantime, I'm gonna support the filter and remove the bolt. There's a washer here on under the bolt, I think. Oh, it's either stuck or it's part of the bolt, I don't know. All right. Yeah, there is a spring inside. And there's a bunch of sludge in there. A whole bunch of sludge. I'm gonna clean all of that up. Okay. Oop. Yep, that's what I didn't want to happen. These little pieces that fall in and get lost. it's, yeah, there. There is a metal sleeve that I need, and then there's a rubber part that goes inside it that I don't need because it comes with the kit. But the metal sleeve is important, I do need that. That's what the spring sits on. So, like that, apparently. Okay, I've cleaned up all the parts. This looks much better now. No sludge, and it's pretty clean from the outside as well. Cleaned up the bolt. Turns out there is indeed a washer here, so I need to remove that. It really looks like it's part of the bolt, but it's not. It's a special washer. There we go. That's rubber from the inside and metal on the outside. The new kit comes with a new one. So there we go. This is what it looks like. So that needs to be discarded. And now we start the assembly. We have the metal one that goes here. And then we put the canister on. Oh, am I missing a washer? I am indeed missing a washer. This one is stuck here on the old canister, even through all the cleaning that I did. There's a metal washer. Yeah, there we go. There's a rubber washer, and on top of it there's a metal washer, and they were both stuck on there. See? The new kit comes with the rubber replacement washer, but it doesn't come with a new metal washer because it's not a wear part. Okay, so just to recap, we start by putting this part rubber, part metal washer here. Then put the bolt through the canister. Then put the new rubber washer. There we go. Okay. Then put the metal washer to push up against it in a flat manner. Then the spring, which I've cleaned up as well. Then we got this sleeve that the spring actually sits on. So the thin part needs to go inside the spring. Put it this way. And finally, this thing goes inside the spacer, whatever you call it here. The one that goes inside the spring. On the other side of it, you need to kind of push in this rubber tapered thing with the tapered side up. The tapered side is going to go into the filter. So make sure it's seated properly and not crooked or anything. Push all of that down. It's not moving very easily. I guess the new rubber pieces are tight. I'm not going to push it all the way in. I'm going to push it all the way in with the filter. So basically the tapered end goes into this part of the filter here. There. And as I suspected, it doesn't bounce back from the spring. See, it's supposed to be coming out. That's not very good. Yeah. I'm going to leave it further out so that as the canister is screwed into the car, it will compress the spring and it will go to its proper position. So this should be fine. That's the assembly, and I need to just screw it onto the car. But before that, I need to put in this seal onto the car. This here is where the rubber seal goes, the new one from the kit. Make sure if your old one was stuck here, you remove it first, and you install the new one inside that recessed ring. That's how it's supposed to work. And last step is to screw the whole canister into the car. Well, first line up the bolt, obviously, that's the first basic thing. Oh, let's see. Okay, I think now I got the thread in. Okay, yep, all right, it's in. Make sure that you guide the canister so that it goes in specifically in the slot where it's supposed to go. Well, if you leave it like that, it's a little crooked. See, and it's here, it's sitting on here, down here, it's sitting on the metal part of the housing. So make sure that it's not doing that. Make sure that it's sitting onto the gasket as it screws in. There. This doesn't need to be very tight at all because it's pressing against the rubber seal. So if you tighten it too much, you're gonna crush the seal and it's gonna start leaking. Okay, I think I'm getting resistance now, so I'm just gonna turn it a little more. Yeah, right there should be good enough. All right, let me give it a little more. No, this is good. Yeah, this is good. Time to put in the new oil. New oil goes in here. It's coming, it's coming. Okay. This oil is greenish. Next up, draining the coolant. Service manual says in order to drain all the coolant, first you need to set the turn ignition on, but don't start the car, and set the air conditioning or heater things to the fully clockwise position, like that. This puts the flaps or valves or whatever they are in an open position so that the coolant can drain from the heater system as well. And then we get under the car and start draining. To drain the coolant, there's a tap here under the radiator, right there. So they call it a tap. I don't know how it works. I guess you unscrew this and then coolant comes out. I don't know. I'll find out. Okay. Oh, yep. That's exactly what it is. You unscrew it by hand a little bit, and then water comes out. Just what it sounds like, a tap. Okay, that's a nice design. I wish cars nowadays had that. That's probably gonna take forever to drain, but okay. Oh, I also haven't removed the coolant cap at the top, which is probably creating vacuum, so let me do that. Not really. Still about the same. Yeah, it's gonna take forever to drain, but I guess I'll just wait. Yeah, nasty stuff. As we're getting toward the end of the draining, this brownish liquid is starting to come out, which is not great. Look at that. I'm gonna pour in some water, some distilled water, into the radiator just to flush this stuff out. Okay, it's getting clearer now. That looks like it worked. Now the new stuff that's coming out is just clear water, so it looks like we cleaned it up pretty well. Okay, I screwed in the tap, or closed it rather. It's very simple, just by hand. And then the next step is to drain the coolant from the block. The drain plug on the left side of the car it's right there. Let's see. Right there. Looks like we can reach it like this. Right there is the plug. There we go. Okay, I have a good grip now. Yeah, I don't know why I expected that to come off easily. Let's try it with a breaker bar, shall we? Okay, it's on. The socket is on. Okay, I guess that did it. I got the ratchet here. Okay, now I should be able to do it by hand. No, it still gets stuck in a certain position. Maybe. Okay. All right, well, I guess there was a bunch of coolant slash water still in there. I was wondering whether it's worth even doing this, but yep, looking at it, it seems like it was. One thing to note, it does have a crush washer here that was left on the block. So on yours, if it doesn't come off with the bolt, either look for it on the block itself or look for it in the drain pan, because it may have fallen off. I need to clean this also. And since it sinks in too deep into the socket, I have to put it in by hand. Okay. I think it's in. Yep. We're good to go. I'm even gonna tighten it by hand as much as I can. There it is. And now let's tighten it. Okay, that should do it. And here's the one on the other side of the engine as well, right there. So I need to undo that as well and drain it. This one's a lot easier to access because there's no oil filter in the way. Yeah, the washer, okay, the washer is gonna come off with the bolt this time, I think. Yeah, and I don't want to do it by hand because all the water is gonna spill on my hand. So I'm just gonna do it with the socket. So I can pull out my hand quickly. There. Okay. That is a lot of water. Did I manage to get the bolt on the washer? Yep, it's here. That's the washer. Okay, good. That drains very quickly, but drains a lot. And done. I put the new oil in, I put the new coolant in. So let's see if everything's fine after I start the engine. Okay, that's good for now, just to make sure there's no leaks. Let's see if there's any leakage near the oil filter. No, I don't see any leakage near the oil filter, but I do see my light is still there. Okay. Would have driven off with it. Good thing I checked. One thing I read when I was looking into the carburetors is that there's supposed to be oil here. I didn't know about this thing, but it's apparently a damper for the suction chamber, and there's supposed to be oil in it. And if there's no oil, it won't work properly. Yeah, the manual says it should be filled with oil up to about 1/2 inch from the top of the piston rod. This whole thing is the piston rod, if my reading of that is correct. And it's empty right now. I read up on this thing, and it could actually be the cause of my problem, because apparently the way it works is it slows down the speed at which the carburetor reacts to throttle input. So if you blip it, normally the carburetor will probably put in more fuel than necessary, and this damper thing slows it down so it doesn't suddenly flood it with fuel. And in my case, the problem is indeed when I start pressing the gas. So maybe that's what's causing the issue, I don't know. And by the way, checking this was suggested by one of the comments in my previous videos. So thanks to the viewer who did that. We'll see if that makes a difference. I still have hope. Nope, that wasn't it. Same behavior, still chokes up. Filling the suction chambers with oil didn't work, didn't help. Maybe it helped a little to smooth out the throttle blips, but it's still, the car is still choking up. I needed to do that, so it's not a mistake for sure, but yeah, it wasn't the main cause of my issues. I got new tires, by the way. You guys see this? This stuff apparently washes off and it becomes white. It's a sidewall, white sidewall tire. But yeah, I wanted to get these before I take it to any reasonable speed, because the old ones were so cracked. They were, like, if you look at it here on the old tires, you could just see, just as it was sitting, you could see humongous cracks. And it was just dangerous to drive with those tires. So why don't we check out how much this whole thing has cost me so far, including the price of the car and all the parts that I've bought for it and all the labor that somebody else has had to do, which is pretty much nothing, just maybe mounting tires. Everything else I've done myself. But let's get into the accounting screens. So the car itself was 4,000 euros, 4,090 to be exact. I had to pay about 150 euros for it to be put on a truck and delivered to me, because it didn't run at the time and I couldn't drive it. Spark plugs 20 euros, fuel vent hoses, total of about 20, air filter 41, oil filter kit 45, main fuel filter 60, so pretty costly. The small fuel float chamber fuel filters were a total of 32, ignition coil and ignition wire about 80 euros. That's just the one wire, not the whole spark plug wire set. Distributor service kit, which includes the cap, rotor, points, and condenser was 90 euros. Shipping for all the above parts was 20 euros from the UK. Then I had to use some .3 brake fluid for a top-up. I got a new battery because the old one was crap and couldn't hold a charge at all. That's again a kind of an unavoidable charge. Tires, now that's the big ticket item. $4.93 and 42 cents. And if you include the labor to mount them and to actually straighten a couple of the wheels because they were bent, that's another 70 euros. So the total comes up to 560-ish euros. That's quite a bit. That's by far my biggest expense. But there was no way around it. There was I couldn't find used ones because this size apparently is not used by any reasonable modern cars. I only saw some off-road tires for sale in this size, which obviously I couldn't use on the Rolls Royce, and that's it. So the only one I could find was this Vitour Galaxy R1, which is the budget option that they sell at Flying Spares. I found it at a different shop here in Bulgaria for a lower price, so that's good, but it's still very expensive. Still one of the most, still definitely the most expensive thing that I've bought for this car. And then we had engine oil, 76 euros, coolant concentrate, 20 euros, not bad at all, and 2 euros for distilled water. And the grand total is 5,438 euros and 9 cents. That's it. And yep, it's racking up quickly. And some of the stuff is unavoidable, like the tires and, I don't know, oil. you gotta do that. You can't go without that. But I'm trying to be reasonable and cost savvy when I'm making decisions on what to buy and what not to buy. And I think overall that's still a reasonably good cost for a running and driving Rolls Royce of any model, whatever Rolls Royce you have. At this price, it's a steal. So keep watching, more episodes are coming up. In the next one, I'm finally gonna tackle the carburetor tuning, which I've been shying away from for a long time, but it's time. So yeah, subscribe to the channel so you get notifications, click on the bell thingy, whatever it is, give me a thumbs up, and please, yeah, help support the channel by doing those things, and you'll see more content coming from me soon. Till next time, see ya.